So, if we claim to be followers of Srila Prabhupada, then the system should be accepted. And if we say that we are preaching but do not promote this system of initiation by accepting it ourselves, then where is preaching? The one point is that without increasing the number of disciples, there is no propagation of the cult of Krishna consciousness, Nectar of Devotion 7. So getting devotees to take initiation is what preaching is, getting them to surrender. Accepting Srila Prabhupada as one's guru is the first step. The second step is to take initiation. This is advised by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into details here, but wants to place before us only the principles. He mentions the basic principles as follows. 1. Accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Second step. Becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. Third step. Obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. Fourth step. Following in footsteps of great acharyas, teachers, under the direction of the spiritual master. Fifth, inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. Nectar Devotion 6. Note here that the point 1 and 2 are two separate principles. And one must accept shelter at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, number 1, and then one must become initiated, number 2. As far as devotees who have fallen after receiving formal initiation, you know very well that this is due to their lack of sincerity, and that is why Srila Rupa Goswami gives the point 3, 4, 5. Formal initiation without these principles is also not complete. Srila Rupa Goswami warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by the acceptance of such initiation, his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. Nectar of Devotion 5. So accepting Srila Prabhupada within the heart only isn't in accordance with Rupa Goswami, nor with the Ritvik system, nor with Srila Prabhupada. A conversation. Madhuvisa, his question was that, can you take initiation by accepting the spiritual master in your heart without actually taking? Prabhupada, these are bogus propositions. It has no meaning. Laughter. It has no meaning. If you think yourself, I am eating, will you be satisfied? You starve and simply think, I have eaten everything. Is that very practical proposal? You must eat. We don't say all these bogus propositions. All right, thank you very much. Reward. Okay, second message. Karti Prabhu, you can read it.
Yes, sir.
I need to find it once again.
Yes, sir. It's super long.
What?
Hare Krishna, Dilip Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Vishnu Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances, all Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Dilip Prabhu, Vishnu Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Krishna Prabhu, Jai Shri Prabhu. Pranam Prabhu.
Manu Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Prabhupada.
Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances, all Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Is it here?
I think, yeah, here. Down. Yeah, there. Okay. Prabhuji, if there's some disturbance, please excuse me. There's a rainstorm going outside.
Yes, Prabhu.
It's okay, Prabhu.
Yes, sir. Preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult throughout the world is more important than staying in Vrindavana or Jagannatha Puri for one's own personal satisfaction. Spreading Krishna consciousness is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. Therefore, his sincere devotees must carry out his desire. Can I skip over the Sanskrit part?
Sure, Prabhu.
Okay. The devotees of Lord Chaitanya must preach Krishna consciousness in every village and town in the world. That will satisfy the Lord. It is not that one should act whimsically for his own personal satisfaction. This order comes down through the parampara system, and the spiritual master presents these orders to the disciple so that he can spread the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is a duty of every disciple to carry out the orders of the bona fide spiritual master and spread Lord Chaitanya's message all over the world. So we can understand that the real symptom of spiritual advancement is how much one is enthusiastic to preach despite all oppositions. Srila Prabhupada himself said that he wasted 12 years in Vrindavan. Oh. As far as who as far as who is qualified to act as Ritvik officiating Acharya, one has to study by the result. How many disciple is one bringing to Srila Prabhupada and training up under his guidance? How fired up are those disciples to preach under that officiating Acharya's guidance? That is the test. Many original Prabhupada disciples like to hold Zoom meetings, but we can hardly see one Sunday feast that they are doing. As far as we are concerned in ISKM, we strongly believe that His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu is a bona fide Shiksha Guru. He was suggested by a group of temple presidents that had broken away from ISKCON to start giving Ritvik initiation. He did not begin out of his own accord. Oh, this I did not know actually. Okay. Plus, I can say that he told me personally that Srila Prabhupada came in his dream. He was on a sinking ship and came towards the dock when he gave his bead back to Sundar Gopal Prabhu while getting on the dock just as the ship sank completely. Sundar Gopal Prabhu then gave back the beads to Srila Prabhupada. Oh, so Srila Prabhupada was on a sinking ship and he gave the bead back to Sundar Gopal Prabhu, right?
Yes, and Sundar Gopal Prabhu then gave back. Right.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, what this ship can be represented.
Yeah.
His movement.
But Prabhu, we cannot speculate on this, no, Prabhu?
Yes,
I
Prabhu.
don't know. But that's great. I believe it 100%, Prabhuji. Like,
Yes,
Sundar Gopal
Prabhu.
Prabhu is really
So
very-
so Prabhupada handed the beads and Prabhu handed them back. He's
yeah.
so sinking.
Next time we should ask Sundar Gopal Prabhu what's the meaning in the class, maybe. Or personally.
I think it's an intimate question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But it's nice.
Yeah,
Prabhu.
but I think better to ask maybe Nimai Prabhu personally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
personally, yes, Prabhu.
in PM. Right.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay. So I accepted His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu as being empowered to push this Ritvik system of initiation. And to say frankly, from outside of his Siksha disciples, I have yet to see one devotee who is very sharp in understanding Srila Prabhupada. So we might claim to love Srila Prabhupada, but loving him means following his instructions. Affection for the spiritual masters of the spiritual master and following the instruction of the spiritual master is the same. My instruction is that all of my disciples must attend the Mangala Arti and chant 16 rounds daily. Letter in Vrindavan, August 20th, 1974. So at times, we might have some material desires that we cannot give up, and that requires a rectification by the Shiksha Guru. Conversation. Prabhupada. No, our thing is that we have got some principles. If anyone cannot follow, then we do not accept him. Devotee. Then what do you do with the rest of the world except for the few people who Prabhupada? So what I can do, I am doing. Therefore, you have no right to ask me. What is possible by me, I am doing. And those who are able to follow, they are following. That's all. Devotee. But they cannot engage anyone else. How can you reach the intelligent class? Prabhupada. So that is their business. That is not your business. We are trying to be disciples, so we consider it our business because we are sincerely trying. So why are you bothering me? You do your business. Because from you only, I did not accept you because you're keeping hairs. I did not know that. Yes. You never told me that in Hawaii. Now I say, I'll repeat that anyone who's keeping long hairs, he's no more my disciple. Okay. All right. That is the first condition.
Wow.
Yeah, this was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, one day
You didn't know,
we'll
yeah.
have to be shave head.
One second.
Are there any more? I mean, this seems short.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Read the last part.
Yes, Prabhuji. I believe that we have properly presented the subject matter. If any more discussions is to be made on this matter, it should be privately done. Hare Krishna, all glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, so like what is like the can we read the first part again, Prabhuji, please? If time permits.
Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, Abhishek is here? Abhishek Prabhu, Namaste and Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Abhishek Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Right now I'm at work, but I'm just going to hear. Hare Krishna.
Any more? He wants to Prabhu Ki Jai. Okay, then the first part.
Prabhu, like Swami Prabhu, were you able to understand the first part properly?
Of this one,
The first one before. The one that you read.
this part,
Yes, Prabhuji.
yes, we can read it again.
Okay, Prabhu.
Mhm.
Okay, so concerning accepting formal initiation, Srila Prabhupada gave us this system. He applied it when he was physically present, and he gave us a system that can continue the formal initiation process after his physical departure. So why not accept? To promote the Ritvik system of initiation, but at the same time not taking initiation under it is contradictory. If one thinks there is no difference whether one is formally initiated or not, then why not take it? Since Srila Prabhupada gave this system. May 28th conversation. Satsvaru. Then our next question concerns initiations in the future, particularly at the time when you're no longer with us. We want to know how first and second initiation would be conducted. Prabhupada, yes, I shall recommend some of you, after this is settled up, I shall recommend some of you to act as officiating acharyas. Tamal Krishna, is that called Ritvik Acharya? Prabhupada, Ritvik, yes. So if we claim to be followers of Srila Prabhupada, then the system should be accepted. And if we say that we are preaching but do not promote the system of initiation by accepting it ourselves, then where is preaching? The one point is that without increasing the number of disciples, there is no propagation of the cult of Krishna consciousness, Nectar of Devotion 7. So getting devotees to take initiation is what preaching is, getting them to surrender. Accepting Srila Prabhupada as one guru is the first step. The second step is to take initiation. This is advised by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into details here, but wants to place before us only the principles. He mentions the basic principle as follows: accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, 2. Becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. 3. Obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. 4. Following in the footsteps of great acharyas, teachers, under the direction of the spiritual master. 5. Inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. Nectar of Devotion. 6. Note here that the point 1 and 2 are two separate principles. One must accept shelter at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. That's point 1. And then one must become initiated. That's the second point. As far as devotees who are fallen after receiving formal initiation, you know very well that this is due to their lack of sincerity, and that is why Srila Rupa Goswami gives the point 3, 4, and 5. Formal initiation without these principles also is not complete. Srila Rupa Goswami warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by acceptance of such initiation his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting that spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. Nectar of Devotion 5. So accepting Srila Prabhupada within the heart only is in accordance with Rupa Goswami, nor with the Ritvik system, nor with Srila Prabhupada. Conversation. Madhuvisa. His question was that, can you take initiation by accepting the spiritual master in your heart without actually taking? Prabhupada, these are bogus propositions. It has no meaning. It has no meaning. If you think within yourself, I am eating, will you be satisfied? You starve and simply think, I have eaten everything. Is that very practical proposal? You must eat. We do not say all these bogus propositions. All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, actually, can you just open my message? I forwarded you one part where we didn't read, like we skipped. Oh, this one also Nimai Nitai Prabhuji shared, but we did not read.
Oh, really? I don't remember that we read it.
This one. Yeah, we did not read this, right?
Hmm. About Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Because Nityananda Prabhu's question was about that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur take initiation from the photo of his Guru Maharaj.
Did we jump over it or didn't we read it?
We didn't read it. This one we did not read. The message was so huge that we don't know where we
Yeah.
are.
Okay. Okay, Haribol. As far as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if one can defeat all bogus gurus, swamis, yogis, sahajiyas, caste, brahmanas, caste, Goswamis, write literature that is beyond imperfection, become a Jagat Guru, and strike fear in the heart of all religious pretenders, then one can take initiation as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did. Bhagavatam 4.4.19. It is better to execute one's own occupational duty than to criticize others. Elevated transcendentalists may sometimes forego the rules and regulations of the Vedas, since they do not need to follow them, just as the demigods travel in space, whereas ordinary men travel on the surface of the earth. Bhagavatam 10.33.30. One who is not a great controller should never imitate the behavior of ruling personalities, even mentally. If out of foolishness an ordinary person does imitate such behavior, he will simply destroy himself, just as a person who is not Rudra would destroy himself if he tried to drink an ocean of poison. You claim to understand what initiation means, but why do you reject the Ritvik system given by Srila Prabhupada in his Jule 977 directive? You point out that some devotees who were properly initiated fell down and used this as an argument that formal initiation isn't necessary. This is like saying that many persons died on capsized ship and thus a boat isn't required to cross the ocean. Yes. Srila Prabhupada clearly says that it has got value. And as you are all following my instructions in that matter, the initiation is already there. Now the next initiation will be performed as ceremony officially. Of course, that ceremony has value because the holy name will be delivered to the student from the disciplic succession. It has got value. So wouldn't you like the holy name to be delivered to you from the disciplic succession? Srila Prabhupada has so mercifully given us this opportunity where we can formally become his initiated disciple. One should run towards such opportunity. In the book called Tattva Sagara, it is stated, Sanskrit verse, if by a chance one gets a Sadguru, it doesn't matter whether one is in the temple or the forest. If the Sadguru, the bona fide spiritual master, agrees, one can be initiated immediately, without waiting for a suitable time or place. Wouldn't you like to hear Srila Prabhupada whisper the Gayatri Mantra within your ear? According to Pancharatra, second initiation is real initiation. Regarding your questions, second initiation is real initiation. First initiation is the preliminary, just to make him prepared. Just like primary and secondary education, the first initiation gives him chance to become purified, and when he is actually purified, then he is recognized as a Brahmana, and that means real initiation. The eternal bond between disciple and spiritual master begins from the first day he hears. Letters, New Vrindavan, September 4, 72. Srila Prabhupada states that the bond starts when one hears from him, but he still stresses second initiation as being the real initiation. Taking formal initiation before the devotees, before the sacred fire, before the deities, before the Shiksha and Diksha Guru is the manifestation of the act of surrendering. Now instruct them very seriously about their responsibilities to promise to follow the four prohibitive rules and daily to chant and to daily chant 16 rounds means they cannot deviate. You can hold a fire yagna and inform them that in promising before the deity and before the spiritual master, one cannot later break the rules without being punished, just as in the law of court one is held for perjury. Letters, Honolulu, January 16, 1974. So it is a spiritual contract signed between the disciple and Srila Prabhupada. The disciple swears to chant minimum 16 rounds and follow the principles, and Srila Prabhupada swears to bring the disciple back to Godhead.
Prabhuji, actually, that's another one we haven't read, I think.
Where is it?
This one, which you're pointing at. No, Prabhuji.
How did we skip it? What happened there? No.
Oh, you skipped past. Can you go up? No. Stop now. Stop. Yeah, I thank you all of you. Yeah, this one. Did we read it? No, we did not read this. So, did I read this, Prabhuji?
Nibo. Yes, Prabhu, you can read.
Yes, Prabhuji. I thank all of you very much for accepting me as your spiritual master. And I promise that I will take you back home, back to Godhead. I ask you all to promise me to always chant at least 16 rounds, follow the regulative principles, read our books, and try to preach this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Letters, Delhi, November 12, 1971. Another aspect is that one must change his name. One cannot continue with a Karmi name, and that name must be given by a guru. It is to be understood from this that it is essential for a disciple to change his name after initiation. After initiation, the disciple's name must be changed to indicate that he is a servant of Lord Vishnu. The disciple should also immediately begin marking his body with tilaka, urdhava pundra, especially his forehead. These are spiritual marks, symptoms of a perfect Vaishnava. This is a verse from the Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda. A member of the Sahaja Sampradaya does not change his name. Therefore, he cannot be accepted as a Gaudiya Vaishnava. If a person does not change his name after initiation, it is to be understood that he will continue in this bodily concept of life. Then you mentioned about you living in Vrindavana and chanting 64 rounds as proof that you have spiritually advanced without formal initiation. These symptoms are not spoken by Srila Prabhupada as spiritual advancement. In fact, many of his god brothers chanted 64 rounds for decades, but Srila Prabhupada called them Kanishtadikaris. Now, we do find statements from Srila Prabhupada in opposition to such practice. Not that this refers to you, but here are some quotes. By being fully surrendered to Krishna and fighting for Krishna, we will be victorious with Krishna's help. We are not interested to merely sit and chant and live a peaceful life. We want to take risks to push on this movement. December 4th, 1973, Los Angeles. There was two fights in the Indian history. One is Rama and Ravana, and one is Kurukshetra. And the hero is a Vaishnava. We are going to produce such Vaishnavas, not these dull rascals sitting down. We do not want these Vaishnavas, sitting down rascals. We want Arjuna or we want no one. That is Vaishnava. That is wanted. Conversations 1974. Prabhupada, yes, to be quickly recognized by Krishna. This is the shortcut process. He never says that those who are sitting in a secluded place meditating or chanting doing nothing. He never says that. They are my very dear devotees. But those who are preaching, okay, next Prabhu. Okay. Na cha tasman manusheshu kashin Bhagavad Gita 18.
People.
Bhagavad Gita 18.69. Conversation 1976 Hyderabad. Okay. Prithivite Ashe Yata Nagaradi. That is his mission. It is not that become a big Vaishnava and sit down and imitate. This is all rascaldom. So don't follow this thing. So at least we cannot advise you in that way. We have learned from our Guru Maharaj that preaching is very, very important thing. And when one is actually an experienced preacher, then he is able to chant Hare Krishna mantra without any offense. Before that, this so-called chanting of Hare Krishna mantra, you may practice without any offenses and giving up all other business to make a show of a big Vaishnava. That is not required. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.19. Yeah, yes, Prabhuji, I have figured it out.
Did we read this one?
Yes, Prabhuji, this second one I read, but I can read again maybe if you want.
Oh, yes, we read this one.
We read this, yeah.
Okay, Haribol. What's going on here?
So Prabhuji, even if like one chants 64 rounds, it's not like you can just sit and have a peaceful life chanting and reading.
Yes, bro.
Like you have to preach. If you don't preach, then Prabhupada's like we don't need like people who are just sitting nicely and doing.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhupada didn't like this.
Yes.
Do I have this?
Yeah, I know a lot of devotees here in Russia who have the same mindset as Nityananda Prabhu, that you don't have to take this formal initiation. You just accept Srila Prabhupada in your heart and that's it.
Yeah,
And they
Prabhupada
also like to live in Vrindavan on their own. I mean, and they think it's devotional service.
actually that's kind of sense gratification, no Prabhu. Like it is said that there is no use to live in Vrindavan. You have to like preach somewhere. Like for example, his Grace Prahlad Prabhu, he's living in Pondicherry, but he can preach so much.
Yes,
like,
Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah,
So,
you see.
yes, Prabhu.
Yes. So yeah, I was just want to say that even Srila Prabhupada said that he wasted 12 years in Vrindavan.
Yeah. Yeah, this chanting also, Prabhupada didn't like this. If there is something to do, then he like that should be done first. Like this is example that he was this is in Mayapur. He was at the visiting at the Mayapur place and looking at the Gurukul places and all those. And then he comes in there and he asked, what is that? What is that in charge? Why it is so dirty? Why it is so dirty? Because it was dirty. There was it wasn't clean, the place, when Prabhupada went, and he straight noticed that it's so dirty here. And then one devotee says, we clean every day. Prabhupada asked, every day? Devotee, yes. So why it is not clean today? We clean it in the evenings before we leave. The people living upstairs, they pass through here. This is the entrance into the living quarters, Prabhupada. You clean it in the evening, and in the morning it is so dirty. In the afternoon or in the evening, early. You clean it in the evening, and in the morning it is so dirty. Well, they're passing through here to living quarters. And therefore it should be dirty. Then what for cleaning? Just see, what is the cleaning? You clean in the evening, in the morning it is so dirty. Is that very good reason? Clean, engage them. You are chanting Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Sringara Tanman Tanmandiramarjanadav. This is all temple. This is not an ordinary hotel, free hotel. If they cannot take care as temple, they must go away. Eating, sleeping, that's all, not working. Yeah, here it's not working. See that they do not make it a free hotel for eating and sleeping. Don't allow this. It should be clean. Why in the evening? Every morning it should be clean and washed and mopped. Jaya Pataka. Generally, they chanted japa till 7:15, till about 7:15. Yeah, Jaya Pataka comes and says, but they don't maybe have to clean it because they're chanting japa. So he's saying that it's better, like Prabhupada says.
Yeah.
And therefore, everything should be, they must give up this japa. First of all clean. That is japa. First, in the name of japa and dosing, and everything is unclean. This is nonsense. Should not be allowed. Ask them, stop japping. First of all, clean, then japa. Make japa. This is a plea, japa. Tamal Krishna, they are chanting japa. Prabhupada, who is japping? Please be careful that this idol class in the name of japa. There are so many men. Why this should be not taken care of, not indulged to give shelter persons. In the name of so-called japa, they take advantage of free boarding and lodging. You should be very careful. Everyone should be according to capacity, must be engaged to some work. Don't allow this stupidity. Yeah, so even Prabhupada was very strict about this.
Yes.
Because before reading things like this, I was also going for like my main thing. I was trying to go for 32 rounds a day. I was like focusing that my only thing is to chant the extra rounds, but then I was neglecting everything else. No cooking, no everything. I was thinking, but I'm chanting, it's a really good thing. But then I understood, just finish this 16 round, then do everything that you have to do. And if you then have time, you do extra rounds. But usually you won't have time to do because there is so many things to do every day. You have so many always.
Yeah.
So after that, then the extra rounds are better. But to leave something undone or to stay at some place just so one can chant his 64 rounds, that's not so advisable if he's not doing anything for preaching or something that Prabhupada told to do. Because even if one is in Vrindavan, then he can preach there from there also. There's no excuse to not do some preaching, especially if one is advanced. If one says, I'm really advanced, then he should be preaching even more because he has the ability to preach. But if he just stays one place, doesn't utilize anything, says, I'm advanced, doesn't preach, even though he's advanced, then that's just, don't allow it this. It's stupidity, Prabhupada says.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, Haribol, but now, is there anything?
Actually, right now, Vishwampar Prabhu on WhatsApp, he shared that they issued their first digital magazine called Back to Krishna, like Back to Godhead. It's free and you can read. The first issue is, the first magazine is about coming Radha Yatra. So it's very interesting. I'm gonna to read it later after this session, maybe.
Is like magazine?
Yes.
Haribol.
Monthly magazine. You should join WhatsApp group to get this every month. Okay. In Bhaktivedanta courses, he explained. Yeah. Yeah. Here, can you scroll up? Yeah.
Haribol.
A little bit. Yeah. Can you scroll up a bit? Yeah. Here's. Yeah. I knew that he is doing something like that, but now he's finally released.
We have GUIs of the month in.
Yeah, and actually I went through this quickly through this magazine, and at the end he put one verse, and so he suggests to memorize. So I believe it's it's some kind of entertainment. So it's interesting.
Yes, I will also read this later. Haribol.
Yeah.
Okay, Haribol, Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapatakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhupya Evacha Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Rishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ribo. Okay, so today we will read one chapter of Krishna book, 32nd chapter, and it is the description of the Rasa dance, a special chapter, Haribo. Okay, I read the first page. Thus, hearing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, speaking to pacify them, the gopis became very much pleased, and not only by hearing his words, but also by touching the hands and legs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They became completely relieved from the great suffering of separation. After this, the Supreme Personality of Godhead began his rasa dance. When one dances in the midst of many girls, it is called rasa dance. So Krishna began to dance among the most beautiful and fortunate girls within the three worlds. The gopis of Vrindavan, who were so attracted to him, danced with Krishna hand in hand. Krishna's rasa dance should never be compared with any kind of material dance, such as ball dance or a society dance. The rasa dance is a completely spiritual performance. In order to establish this fact, Krishna, the supreme mystic, expanded himself in many forms and stood beside each gopi, placing his hands on the shoulders of the gopis on both sides of him. He began to dance in their midst. The mystic expansion of Krishna were not perceived by the gopis because Krishna appeared alone to each of them. Each gopi thought that Krishna was dancing with her alone. Above that wonderful dance flew many airplanes carrying the denizens of the heavenly planets, who were very anxious to see the wonderful dance of Krishna with the gopis. The Gandharvas and Kinnaras began to sing, and accompanied by their respective wives, all the Gandharvas began to shower flowers on the dancers. As the gopis and Krishna danced together, a very blissful musical sound was produced from their tinkling of their bells, ornaments, and bangles. It appeared that Krishna was a greenish sapphire locket in the midst of a golden necklace decorated with valuable stones. While Krishna and the gopis danced, they displayed extraordinary bodily features. The movements of their legs, their placing their hands on one another, the movements of their eyebrows, their smiling, the movements of the breasts of the gopis and their clothes, their earrings, their cheeks, their hair with the flowers, as they sang and danced as they sang and danced, these combined together to appear like clouds, thunder, snow, and lightning. Krishna's bodily features appeared just like a group of clouds. Their songs were like thunder. The beauty of the gopis appeared to be just like lightning in the sky, and the drops of perspiration visible on their faces appeared like falling snow. In this way, both the gopis and Krishna fully engaged. In this way, both the gopis and Krishna fully engaged in dancing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can I?
Yes, Prabhu. Haribam.
The necks of the gopis became tinted with red due to their desire to enjoy Krishna more and more. To satisfy them, Krishna began to clap his hands in time with their singing. Actually, the whole world is full of Krishna's singing, but it is appreciated in different way by different kinds of living entities. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. Krishna is dancing and every living entity is also dancing. But there is difference in the dancing in the spiritual world and in the material world. This is expressed by the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, who say that the master dancer is Krishna and everyone is his servant. Everyone is trying to imitate Krishna's dancing. Those who are actually in Krishna consciousness respond rightly to the dancing of Krishna. They do not try to dance independently, but those in the material world try to imitate Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entities are dancing under the direction of Krishna's Maya and are thinking that they are equal to Krishna. But this is not a fact. In Krishna consciousness, this misconception is absent. For a person in Krishna consciousness knows that Krishna is the Supreme Master and everyone is his servant. One has to dance to please Krishna, not to imitate or to become equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The gopis wanted to please Krishna, and therefore, as Krishna sang, they responded and encouraged him by saying, "Well done, well done." Sometimes they presented beautiful music for his pleasure, and he responded by praising their singing. Should I continue?
Yes, Prabhu.
When some of the gopis became very tired from dancing and moving their bodies, they placed their hands on the shoulder of Sri Krishna. Then their hair loosened and flowered fell to the ground. When they placed their hands on Krishna's shoulder, they became overwhelmed by the fragrance of his body, which emanates from the lotus, other aromatic flowers, and the pulp of sandalwood. They become filled with attraction for him, and they began to kiss one another. Some gopis touched Krishna cheek to cheek, and Krishna began to offer them chewed betel's nuts from his mouth, which they exchanged with great pleasure by kissing and by accepting those betal nuts. The gopis is spiritually advanced. The gopis became tired after long singing and dancing. Krishna was dancing beside them, and to alleviate their fatigue, they took Sri Krishna's hand and placed it on their raised breasts. Krishna's hand, as well as the breast of the gopis, are eternally auspicious. Therefore, when they combine, both of them become spiritually enhanced. The gopis so enjoyed the company of the Krishna, the husband of the goddess of fortune, that they forgot that they had any other husband in the world. And upon being embraced by the arms of Krishna and dancing and singing with him, they forgot everything. The Srimad Bhagavatam thus describes the beauty of the gopis while they were uh, they were rasa dancing with Krishna. There were lotus flowers over both their ears, and their faces were decorated with sandalwood pulp. They wore tilaka, and there were drops of sweat on their smiling mouths. From their feet came the tingling sound of the ankle bells as well as bangles. The flower within their hair were falling to the lotus feet of Krishna, and he was very satisfied. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, all the gopis are expansions of Krishna's pleasure potency. Touching their body with his hand and looking at their pleasing eyes, Krishna enjoyed the gopis exactly as a child enjoys playing with the reflection of his body in a mirror. When Krishna touches the different part of their bodies, the gopis felt surcharged with spiritual energy. They could not adjust their loosened clothes, although they tried to keep them properly. Their hair and garments become scattered, and their ornament loosened as they forgot themselves in the company with Krishna. While Krishna was enjoying the company of the gopis in the rasa dance, the astonished demigods and their wives gather in the sky. The moon began being afflicted with a sort of lust, began to watch the dance and became stunned with wonder. The gopis had prayed to the goddess Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband. Now Krishna was fulfilled their desire by expanding himself in as many forms as there were gopis and enjoyed them exactly as a husband. Srila Sukadev Goswami has remarked that Krishna is self-sufficient. He is Atmaram. He doesn't need anyone else for his satisfaction. Because the gopis wanted Krishna as their husband, he fulfilled their desire. When Krishna saw that the gopis were tired from dancing with him, he immediately began to smear his hands over their faces so that their fatigue would be satisfied. In order to reciprocate the kind hospitality of Krishna, the gopis began to look lovingly at him lovingly. They were overjoyed by the auspicious touch of the hand of Krishna. Their smiling cheeks shone with beauty, and they began to sing the glories of Krishna and transcendental pleasure. As pure devotee, the more the gopis enjoyed Krishna's company, the more they become enlightened with his glory, and thus they reciprocated with him. They wanted to satisfy Krishna by glorifying his transcendental pastimes. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, the master of masters. The gopis wanted to worship him for his unusual exhibition of mercy upon them. Both the gopis and Krishna entered the water of the Yamuna just to relieve their fatigue from their rasa dance. The lily flower wound around the neck of the gopis and their dainty body flushed, and their flowers were reddish from being smeared with the kumkuma on their breasts. The bumblebees were humming about in order to get honey from the flowers. Krishna and the gopis entered the water of Yamuna just as an elephant enters a water tank with his many female companions. Both the gopis and Krishna
People, okay, who wants to continue from here?
Hare Krishna. Both the gopis and Krishna forgot their real identity, playing in the water, enjoying each other's company, and relieving the fatigue of rasa dancing. The gopis began to splash water on the body of Krishna, all the while smiling, and Krishna enjoyed this. As Krishna was taking pleasure in the joking words and splashing water, the demigods in the heavenly planets began to shower flowers. The demigods thus praised the super excellent rasa dance of Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, and his pastimes with the gopis in the water of Yamuna. After this, Lord Krishna and the gopis came out of the water and began to stroll along the bank of the Yamuna, where a nice breeze was blowing, carrying the aroma of different kinds of flowers over the water and land. While strolling on the banks of the Yamuna, Krishna recited various kinds of poetry. He thus enjoyed the company of the gopis in the soothing moonlight of autumn. Sex desire is especially excited in the autumn season. But the wonderful thing about Krishna's association with the gopis is that there was no question of sex desire. It was as clearly stated in the Bhagavata description by Shukadeva Goswami. Avaruddha Saurata, namely the sex impulse, was completely controlled. There is a distinction between Lord Krishna's dancing with the gopis and the ordinary dancing of living entities within the material world. In order to clear up further misconceptions about the Rasa dance and the affairs of Krishna and the gopis, Maharaja Parikshit, the hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam, told Shukadeva Goswami, Krishna appeared on the earth to establish the regulative principles of religion and to curb the predominance of irreligion. But the behavior of Krishna and the gopis might encourage irreligious principles in the material world. I am simply surprised that he would act in such a way, enjoying the company of others' wives in the dead of night. This statement of Maharaja Parikshit was very much appreciated by Shukadev Goswami. The answer anticipates the abominable acts of the Mayavadi impersonalists who place themselves in the position of Krishna and enjoy the company of young girls and women. The basic Vedic injunctions never allow a person to enjoy sex with any woman except one's own wife. Krishna's appreciation of the gopis appeared to be distinctly in violation of these rules. Maharaja Parikshit understood the total situation from Shukadev Goswami, yet to further clear the transcendental nature of Krishna and the gopis in rasa dance, he expressed his surprise. This is very important in order to check the unrestricted association with women by the Prakrita Sahajiya. In his statement, Maharaja Parikshit has used several important words which require clarification. The first word, Jugupsidam, means abominable. The first doubt of Maharaja Parikshit was as follows: Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has advented himself to establish religious principles. Why then did he mix with others' wives in the dead of night and enjoy dancing, embracing, and kissing? According to the Vedic injunctions, this is not allowed. Also, when the gopis first came to him, he gave instructions to them to return to their homes. To call the wives of other persons or young girls and enjoy dancing with them is certainly abominable according to the Vedas. Why should Krishna have done this? Another word used here is aptakama. Some may take it for granted that Krishna was very lusty among young girls, but Parikshit Maharaja said that this was not possible. He could not be lusty. First of all, First of all, from the material calculation, he was only 8 years old. At that age, a boy cannot be lusty. Aptakama means that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is self satisfied. Even if he were lusty, he does not need to take up help from others to satisfy his lusty desires. And the next point is that although not lusty himself, he might have been induced by the lusty desires of the gopis. But Maharaja Parikshit then used another word, Yadupadi, Yadupadi, which indicates that Krishna is the most exalted personality in the dynasty of the Yadus. The kings in the dynasty of Yadu were considered to be the most pious, and their descendants were also like that. Having taken birth in that family, there's a problem. Having taken birth in that family, how would Krishna have been induced even by the gopis? It is concluded, therefore, that it was not possible for Krishna to do anything abominable. But Maharaja Parikshit was in doubt as to why Krishna acted in that way. What was the real purpose? Another word Maharaja Parikshit used when he addressed Shukadev Goswami is Suvrata, which means to take a vow to enact pious activities. Shukadev Goswami was an educated brahmachari, and under the circumstances, it was not possible for him to indulge in sex. This is strictly This is strictly prohibited for brahmacharis, and what to speak of brahmachari like Shukadev Goswami. But because the circumstances of the rasa dance were very suspect, Maharaj Parikshit inquired for clarification from Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami immediately replied that transgressions of religious principles by the supreme controller testified to his great power. For example, fire can consume any abominable thing, that is manifestation of supremacy of fire. Similarly, the sun can absorb water from a urinal or from stool, and the sun is not polluted. Rather, due to the influence of sunshine, the polluted, contaminated place becomes disinfected and sterilized. One may also argue that since Krishna is the supreme authority, his activities should be followed. In answer to this question, Shukadev Goswami has very clearly said that Ishwaranam, or the supreme controller, may sometimes violate his instructions. But this is only possible for the controller himself, not for the followers. Unusual and uncommon activities by the controller can never be imitated. Shukadev Goswami warned that the conditioned followers who are not actually in control should never even imagine imitating the uncommon activities of the controller. A Mayavadi philosopher may falsely claim to be God or Krishna, but he cannot actually act like Krishna. He can persuade his followers to false imitate rasa dance, but he is unable to lift Govardhana hill. We have many experiences in the past of Mayavadi rascals deluding their followers by posing themselves as Krishna in order to enjoy Rasa Leela. In many instances, they were checked by the government, arrested and punished. In Orissa, Thakur Bhakti Vinod also punished a so-called incarnation of Vishnu who was imitating Rasa Leela with young girls. There were many complaints against him. At that time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was magistrate, and the government deputed him to deal with that rascal, and he punished him very severely. The Rasa Leela dance cannot be imitated by anyone. Shukadev Goswami warns that one should not even think of imitating it. He specifically mentions that if, out of foolishness, one tries to imitate Krishna's Rasa dance, he will be killed, just like a person who wants to imitate Lord Shiva's drinking of an ocean of poison. Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison and kept it within his throat. The poison made his throat turn blue, and therefore Lord Shiva is called Nilakanda. But if any ordinary person tries to imitate Lord Shiva by drinking poison or smoking ganja, he is sure to be vanquished and will die within a very short time. Lord Sri Krishna's dealing with the gopis was service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Most of the gopis in their previous lives were great sages, expert in the studies of the Vedas, and when Lord Krishna appeared as Lord Ramachandra, they wanted to enjoy with him. Lord Ramachandra gave them the benediction that their desires would be fulfilled when he would appear as Krishna. Therefore, the desire of the gopis to enjoy the appearance of Lord Krishna was long cherished. So they approached goddess Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband. There are many other circumstances also which testify to the supreme authority of Krishna and show that he is not bound to the rules and regulations of the material world. In special cases, he acts as he likes to favor his devotees. This is only possible for him because he is the supreme controller. People in general should follow the instructions of Lord Krishna as given in the Bhagavad Gita and should not even imagine imitating Lord Krishna in the rasa dance. Krishna's lifting of Govardhan hill, his killing great demons like Putana and others, are all obviously extraordinary activities. Similarly, the rasa dance is also an uncommon activity and cannot be imitated by any ordinary man. An ordinary person engaged in his occupational duty, like Arjuna, should execute his duty for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is within his power. Arjuna was a fighter, and Krishna wanted him to fight for his satisfaction. Arjuna agreed, although at first he was not willing to fight. Duties are required for ordinary persons. They should not jump up and try to imitate Krishna and indulge in rasa leela and thus bring about their ruin. One should know with certainty that Krishna had no personal interest in whatever he did for the benediction of the gopis. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Namam Karnani Limpanti, Krishna never enjoys or suffers the result of his activities. Therefore, it is not possible for him to act irreligiously. He is transcendental to all activities and religious principles. He is untouched by the modes of material nature. He is the supreme controller of all living entities, either in human society, in the demigod society, in heavenly planets, or in lower forms of life. He is the supreme controller of all living entities and of material nature. Therefore, he has nothing to do with religious or irreligious principles. Shukadeva Goswami further concludes that the great sages and devotees who are washed clean of all conditional life can move freely even within the contamination of material nature by keeping Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within their hearts. In this way, also, they do not become subject to the laws of pleasure and pain in the modes of material nature. How then is it possible for Krishna, who appears in his own eternal potency, to be subjected to the laws of karma? In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord clearly says that whenever he appears, he does so by his internal potency. He is not forced to accept a body by the laws of karma like an ordinary living entity. Every other living entity is forced to accept a certain type of body by his previous actions. But when Krishna appears, he always appears in a body. It is not forced upon him by the action of his past deeds. His body is a vehicle for his transcendental pleasure, which is enacted by his internal potency. He has no obligation to the laws of karma. The Mayavadi monist must accept a certain type of body, being forced by the laws of nature. Therefore, his claim to be one. His claim to be one with Krishna or God is only theoretical. Such persons who claim to be equal with Krishna are indulged in Rasa Lila, create a dangerous situation for the people in general. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is already present as Super Soul within the bodies of the gopis and their husbands. He is the guide of all living entities, as is confirmed in the Katha Upanishad, Nitya Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The Super Soul directs the individual soul to act, and the Super Soul is the actor and witness of all action. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is present in everyone's heart, and from him come all action, remembrance, and forgetfulness. He is the original person to be known by Vedic knowledge. He is the author of Vedanta philosophy, and he knows the Vedanta philosophy perfectly well. The so-called Vedantists and Mayavadis cannot understand Krishna as he is. They simply mislead followers by imitating the actions of Krishna in an unauthorized way. Krishna, the super soul of everyone, is already within the body of everyone. Therefore, if he sees someone or embraces someone, there is no question of propriety. Some ask that if Krishna is self-sufficient, why should he at all manifest pastimes with the gopis, which are disturbing to the so-called moralists of the world? The answer is that such activities show special mercy to the fallen, conditioned souls. The gopis are also expansions of his internal energy, but because Krishna wanted to exhibit the Rasa Lila, they also appeared as ordinary human beings. In the material world, pleasure is ultimately manifested in the sex attraction between man and woman. The man lives simply to be attracted by women, and the woman lives simply to be attracted by men. That is the basic principle of material life. As soon as these attractions are combined, people become more and more implicated in material existence. In order to show them special favor, Krishna exhibited the Rasa Lila dance. It is just to captivate the conditioned soul. Since they are very much attracted by sexology, they can enjoy the same life with Krishna and thus become liberated from the material condition. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaja Parikshit also explained that the pastimes and activities of Lord Krishna are medicine for the conditioned souls. If they simply hear about Krishna, they become relieved from the material disease. They are addicted to material enjoyment and are accustomed to reading sex literature, but by hearing these transcendental pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, they will be relieved from material contamination. How they should hear and from whom is also explained by Shukadeva Goswami. The difficulty is that the whole world is full of Mayavadis, and when they become professional reciters of Srimad Bhagavatam, and when people, without knowing the effect of the Mayavadi philosophy, hear from such persons, they become confused. Discussion of Rasa Lila among people in general is not recommended because they are affected by the Mayavadi philosophy. But if one who is advanced explains and people hear from him, certainly the hearers will be gradually elevated to the position of Krishna consciousness and liberated from material contaminated life. Very evil. Anyone can continue next.
Ribo. Another important point is that all the gopis who danced with Krishna were not in their material bodies. They danced with Krishna in their spiritual bodies. All their husbands thought that their wives were sleeping by their sides. The so-called husbands of the gopis were already enamored by the influence of the eternal energy of Krishna. So by dint of this very energy, they could not understand that their wives had gone to dance with Krishna. What then is the basis of accusing Krishna of dancing with others' wives? The bodies of the gopis, which were their husbands, were lying in bed, but the spiritual parts and parcels of Krishna were dancing with him. Krishna is the Supreme Person, the whole Spirit, and he danced with the spiritual bodies of the gopis. There is therefore no reason to accuse Krishna in any way. After the Rasa dance was over, the night turned into Brahma Muhurta, the night of a Brahma, a very, very long period as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The Brahma Muhurta takes place about 1.5 hours before sunrise. It is recommended that one should rise from bed at that time, and after finishing daily ablutions, is it like saying like that? Ablutions. Take the spiritual activities by performing Mangala Aratri and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. This period is very convenient for the execution of spiritual activities. When that auspicious moment arrived, Krishna asked the gopis to leave. Although they were not willing to quit his company, they were very obedient and dear to him. As soon as Krishna asked them to go home, they immediately left and returned home. Shukadeva Goswami concludes this episode of Rasa Leela by pointing out that if a person hears from the right source of the pastimes of Krishna, who is Vishnu himself, and the gopis, who are expansions of his energy, then he will be relieved from the most dangerous type of disease, namely lust. If one actually hears Rasa Leela, he will become completely freed from the lusty desire of sex life and elevated to the highest level of spiritual understanding. Generally, because they hear from Mayavadis and they themselves are Mayavadis, people become more and more implicated in sex life. The conditioned soul should hear the Rasa Leela dance from the authorized spiritual master and be trained by him, so that he can understand the whole situation. Thus, one can be elevated to the highest standard of spiritual life. Otherwise, one will be implicated. Material lust is a kind of heart disease, and to cure the material heart disease one of the conditioned soul, it is recommended that one should hear, but not from the impersonalist rascals. If one hears from the right sources, with right understanding, then his situation will be different. Shukadeva Goswami has used the word Sraddhanvita, for one who is trained in the spiritual life. Shraddha or faith is the beginning. One who has developed his faith in Krishna as the Supreme Person of Godhead, the Supreme Spirit Soul, can both describe and hear. Shukadeva also uses the word anusrn. Is this an anusrnuyat?
Anusrinuyat. I think.
Yes, bro. One must hear from disciplic succession. Anu means following, and Anu means always. So one must always follow the disciplic succession and not hear from any stray professional reciter, Mayavadi, or ordinary man. Anusrnuyat means that one must hear from an authorized person who is in the disciplic succession and is always engaged in Krishna consciousness. When a person wants to hear in this way, then the effect will be sure. By hearing Rasa Leela, one will be elevated to the highest position of spiritual life. Shukadeva Goswami uses two specific words, Bhaktim and Param. Bhaktim Param means execution of devotional service above the neophyte stage. Those who are simply attracted to temple worship, but do not know the philosophy of bhakti, are in the neophyte stage. That sort of bhakti is not the perfectional stage. The perfectional stage of bhakti or devotional service is completely free from material contamination. The most dangerous aspect of contamination is lust or sex life. Bhaktim Param devotional service is so potent that the more one advances in this line, the more he loses his attraction for material life. One who is actually deriving benefit from hearing Rasa Leela dance surely achieves the transcendental position. He surely loses all traces of lust in his heart. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that according to Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma day and Brahma night are periods of solar years expanding to 4.3 million multiplied by 1,000. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the Rasa dance was performed during the long period of Brahma's nights, but the gopis could not understand that. In order to fulfill their desires, Krishna extended the night to cover such a great period of time. One may ask how this was possible, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur reminds us that Krishna, although bound by a small rope, could show his mother the whole universe within his mouth. How was this possible? The answer is that he can do anything for the pleasure of his devotees. Similarly, because the gopis wanted to enjoy Krishna, they were given the opportunity to associate with him for a long period. This was done according to his promise. When Krishna stole the garments of the gopis while they were taking bath at Shirgat on Yamuna, Krishna promised to fulfill their desires in some future nights. In one night, therefore, they enjoyed the company of Krishna as their beloved husband, but that night was not an ordinary night. It was a night of Brahma and lasted millions and millions of years. Everything is possible for Krishna, for he is the supreme controller. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 32nd chapter of Krishna, description of the Rasa dance. Ribo. Okay, so tomorrow we will gonna read again of some demon being killed.
This was a big chapter, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
But I have some questions, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
First, Prabhuji, do you have the picture of the Rasa dance? I cannot imagine all of this. So many things was going on at the same time.
Yes, here it is.
So Krishna was, materially speaking, 8 years old when he was performing this, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Here he is. See, 8 years old. Hari bol. Yes, so this is the picture. It appeared that Krishna was greenish sapphire locket in the midst of golden necklace. Hari bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari bol. Hare Krishna Pranjal Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Pandit Prabhu, Standard Prabhu, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Pranjal Prabhu, Dandat Pranam Jai Prabhupada.
Okay, now let's read 6 Astakam prayers. Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyava Dujivanam Anandam Pudivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vichayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामकारे भूतानि सर्वशक्तिपट्टापते
Who's reading? Next one. Hey, Bol.
Abhishek was just read.
Okay, bro. Okay, third one.
Trinadapi Sunichana, Tarorapi Sahishnana, Amanina Manadena Kirtanye Hasada Harihim.
कलिताम्बा जगदीश कामयि मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवदद्भक्तिरहेतु गीत्वा
Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mishame Bhavam Buddho Kripa Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Tuli Sadrisam Vichintaya.
Nainam Galada Shudharaya, Badanam Gedgada Ruthaya Gira, Pulakair Nichitam Vapuhu Kada Tavanam Grahani Bhavishyati.
Aslisya Padaratam Pinashtumam Adarshanan Marmahatam Karotu Va Yatha Tatha Va Vidatulam Pato Matpranana Tastu Saevana Paraha.
Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Vishnu Prabhu disconnected.
Krishna. Yes, that sounded like a robot voice. Yeah, I hope he comes back soon. Okay. Oh my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
Once you
One
chant the
should,
holy name, sorry, Prabhu, please
yes,
continue.
Prabhu, continue.
Okay. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service.
O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with the tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand at end at the recitation of your name?
Haribo.
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly or by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Hari Bol, Shri Siksastakam ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Panchatattva ki
Jai.
jai, Nityananda Prabhu ki
Jai.
jai, Shri
Jai.
Chaitanya
Jai.
Mahaprabhu ki jai,
Jai.
Jagat Guru
Jai.
Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura
Jai.
Hari Hari Bol.